Hello everybody, it is I, Riffraff Hornhelm, and I'm back again with another presentation from the Dwarven Vault. And today we have a monster review. And today's monster is the EFREETI. Yes, the EFREETI, as it comes to us from the original monster manual for use with basic Dungeons & Dragons and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, or what we typically call 1E today. And once again, if this is the first time you're watching us, be so kind as to leave us a like if you enjoy what you see. Consider subscribing, share with your friends, leave us a comment, do all that great stuff. But most of all, come back and see us again. Now on with the story. So today it's the EFREETI, a terrible, scary creature who has endless volumes of magic to use at its fingertips and is another creature that comes to us from another elemental plane, this one being the plane of fire. And the Efreet is a elemental creature that has 10 hit dice. It's extremely rare, you only see one at a time. And along with the 10 hit dice, it has an armor class of 2. Now, these large creatures, they're 12 feet tall, are technically neutral. Now, I find this kind of amusing. What it says is neutral with a tendency towards lawful evil. I think it would have been a lot more straightforward to say that they're mainly lawful evil, though some of them may tend to be more neutral. I think that's much more accurate. And the EFREETI, if you haven't seen the review I've done for the genie or the djinn, is very similar in style to this creature. Except, of course, it's evil, so it's less likely to want to help people out there and much more likely to try and do damage. It moves at a slightly slower than normal rate than a human on ground, but it is also capable of flying, of course, so it does more than double, or roughly double, what a human can by flying. So it's able to move fairly well. I'm going to pin the genie one to this because really there's a lot of similarities between these two. These are creatures that have no special defense against magic. They only have one attack, and their physical attack they do 3 to 24 points of damage. They are a very competent creature, but their intelligence is not crazy. And certainly, though there are, like I said, a lot of common things in general terms or in layout with the genie, the EFREETI is kind of, has some very significant differences. First off, it is not one that will ever willingly serve another master. So it's always going to try and seek to pervert things and do less than what it typically can. If it is forced to serve, it can only be serving for a maximum of 1,001 days, or after bestowing 3 wishes, which it is capable of doing. Pretty powerful stuff right there. But once again, this is not a willing servant. This is one that's being forced to do what it doesn't want to do in order to fulfill its end of the bargain. But once again, it's going to try and pervert that. Now, like I said earlier, they're not super intelligent, but they are very intelligent. They're not going to be as easy to deal with from an intelligence standpoint as, by comparison, a genie. And on top of it all, the EFREETI and the genie don't see eye to eye. So much so that a EFREETI will automatically attack a genie anytime it sees one. And given that they're generally more powerful than the genie, that makes for a very fraught confrontation between the two. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of similarities between a genie and an EFREETI, including things like being able to become invisible, achieve gaseous form. There's a long list of things that they can do pretty much whenever they want to, and that includes being able, or at least once a day, and that includes being able to produce flame or cause pyrotechnics on will, once again being from the elemental plane of fire. So that's not a huge surprise on that side of it. And they are immune to normal flame. So if somebody's attacking them with normal flame of any kind, it's not going to do any damage. If you use magical fire against it, it can do damage, but it does so at one less point per hit die of damage. Now, an EFREETI has a very, very enhanced capability for carrying things. It can carry 7,500 gold pieces additional weight for extended period of time, either flying or walking, and double that for a much more limited time. Obviously, longer walking than flying. I think flying is only like one turn or something like that. So it's somewhat limited, and they are, also have a long list of other magic they can do, including polymorph, and all of them can be done at a exceptional level of competence, so to speak, and also without any penalty for number of spells. It does not cast normal spells. These are inherent abilities, same as it is for the genie. And of course, these include things like polymorph self. One of the EFREETI's neat things is it's able to enlarge. So this 12-foot tall creature can become absolutely ginormous, which, well, it certainly has a morale effect on its opponents. And of course, as a genie does, the EFREETI is capable of creating illusions with substance in the sense that it'll have audio and smell and all this kind of good stuff. And they don't get dispelled unless they're seen through by a mage or disbelieved. Otherwise, they're like always there unless the EFREETI chooses to turn them off. They are a nasty creature. Their original home is from the legendary city of Brass. Now, the city of Brass is a absolutely fantastic location, famous through literature and so forth, stories, fantasy. And it resides in the city of Brass along with thousands of others of EFREETI. Keep that in mind if you're going to try and, enslave one or something. And it has a sultan who has a complete staff, viziers and advisors and whatnot that look after it. The city of Brass is a very interesting location for an adventure, as you'll see reflected from various things from the Dungeons and Dragons folks. And an EFREETI is just an incredibly powerful creature that you really have to worry about if you're going to be dealing with these types of creatures at all. You really want to avoid having to deal with them in their home plane. Of course, they also travel to the astral and ethereal plane in addition to the prime material plane. Now, from a dwarvish standpoint, we don't run into these very often. They have been run into before, at least that's what the history books tell us, and it hasn't worked out well for the dwarves. I'm not particularly surprised. The mastery of this creature is the fact that it's able to manipulate the environment around it through illusion, and at that same time be able to use its malicious nature and its way of perverting what people are asking for, looking at, etc., to really be very effective at ensnaring, entrapping, and causing harm to parties of adventurers out there. So like I said, us dwarves, we will go to great lengths to avoid anything like an EFREETI. This is really outside of our wheelhouse. At the same time, in an adventuring group, they're not that uncommon. Like I said, in various published adventures and so forth by Dungeons and Dragons, the City of Brass and EFREETI are not exactly strangers to the gaming community. And they are one that, we had to go out to the greater Hornhelm community and ask about and say, well, what about these? What about the EFREETI? And the Dungeon Masters came back, and I got a very, very strong response on this, a 9. They said that this creature was so much fun to use and was smart enough where you could use it to bamboozle a adventuring party, especially by using all the illusions and tricks that it had to disguise itself and its surroundings. Now, A 9, that's really strong. I can't argue with that too much. I would have gone a little lower myself because they are vulnerable. Even though they are 10 hit dice, they don't have any special defense against magic. However, the first step is being able to find out that they are in EFREETI, that you have something to worry about. So, okay, 9. They're certainly very, very powerful. And in talking to the characters out there, they came back and said a 9. That almost every time they had gotten in huge amounts of troubles because they hadn't been able to figure out it was an EFREETI until it was way too late. If you know that you're going to be in an encounter with an EFREETI, your probably smartest thing to do is not to do it, number one. Or number two, be very well prepared. So it's a tough creature and one you definitely want to stay away from. That's the unanimous view of both players and DMs. So that, my friends, is the EFREETI. We hope you found today's presentation informational, educational, amusing. If you did, please be so kind as to leave us a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Leave us a comment. Share with your friends. But by all means, please come back and see us again real soon. We thank you so much for your very kind support. Take care, everyone, and remember, dwarves rock!